In this respect, I would also like to refer to the working group on citizen engagement, which I set up last September under the chairmanship of Fr Sean Healy, to make recommendations on more extensive and diverse input by citizens into the decision-making processes at local government level. This work is a very important, this report of the working group was published on my department's website on the 28th of February last. And Fr Sean, of course, is here today, and he will be outlining some of the recommendations in the report and how they will interact with between the local government and the community, voluntary and environment sector. And I'd like to thank him and all of the members of the working group for their work on this report, which was completed on time and indeed on budget, because it's all done on a voluntary basis. The working group proposed that the public participation network is developed within each local authority area to enable the public to take an active, formal role in the policy making and oversight of activities of the local authority. The working group recommends that the PPN will be the main link through which the local authority connects with the community, voluntary and environmental groups in the local authority area, and through which those groups would be sourced, the representation on from those particular areas will be a source in various committees of the local authority. The PPN would also act as a conduit for information flow from and to the public and the local authority. The focus of the report is on the structures that are needed to strengthen the participation of public benefit civil society groupings in the following three categories. Social inclusion organisations, which represent the interests of groups affected by poverty, social exclusion and discrimination. This includes local communities in disadvantaged areas, groups suffering discrimination and or sexual or social exclusion as a result of race, creed, ability, gender, etc. Environmental organisations whose primary objectives and activities must be environmental protection and or environmental sustainability. And then other voluntary and community organisations will have a role to play as well. The action programme for effective local government particularly identified the need for local government to build strong relationships with and gain the interest of local people, and to provide for better engagement with the local community. And by improving citizen engagement in local government, decision making will be much better informed and strengthened. And it is important that public participation is addressed not just as an add-on to a new community-focused role for local government, but also that it addresses core areas such as promoting higher voter turnout in elections, issues around local services, budgeting, charging, and should operate in a way that increases understanding on the part of the public generally of local government, how it operates and what it does. A framework for public consultation, which has been provided for under the Act, will for the first time in the history of this state provide the basis for this formal engagement with the community. This engagement will be underpinned by regulations and guidelines from my department, which will also allow for engagement of citizens through other mechanisms, including, for example, the use of social media. My department has commenced engagement with stakeholders, including people in the community, voluntary and environmental pillars, on the preparation of those regulations and guidelines following on from the Act and from the work of the PPN group. The regulations will be made as soon as possible following these consultations. And in order to give momentum to this process, structures will be established to facilitate new approaches to citizen engagement on a pilot basis as soon as possible in 4 local authority areas in Laois, Tipperary, Galway and South Dublin. The pilots will, in conjunction with the other consultation processes on the way, determine a practical approach to implementing the structures outlined in the report of the working group, having a regard for the primacy of the local elected representative. At the end of the day, the primary responsibility and accountability for decision making within the local authority remains with the elected member. The changes brought about by the revitalisation of local government mean that the approaches to engagement must go beyond the range of communications that were used in the past. Approaches to stimulate greater public participation should complement, rather than diminish, compete with or substitute for local representative democracy. The participation of members of local communities, whether as individuals or as members of local community or other groups in public life, and their right to influence the decisions that affect their lives and communities are at the centre of democracy. Open and inclusive policy making enhances transparency and accountability, and it builds civic capacity. So I wish you well, Chairman, and the DFI today in your discussions and your endeavours in the future to promote an understanding of the challenges faced by people with disabilities and how we can move forward towards a society where everybody can become an active participant
in decision making that affects their lives and their communities. And I will do my utmost to make this become a reality. And it's up to you and other organisations to embrace this historic opportunity. Thank you very much.